Hello there, my name is MrSmartDonkey. Welcome to the Heroes of the Old World tournament hosted by Lord Rexasaur, in which I am taking part. So, I will start off by saying that if you want to know the rules and all the specifics about this tournament, then I will refer you to the description. There will be a link, or several links perhaps, to the videos that Lord Rexasaur has made. There's no point in me making a separate video explaining all the rules if there's already one out there where Lord Rexasaur does it perfectly well. But I will do some generic things because it is a different kind of setup to my own tournament that I'm hosting with Total War Devon. Officially Devon, of course. Basically, the way it works, it is based up into groups. So in this first group that I'm in, I'm with 3 other people: Tjdwarf, Hef, and Haxo. The first battle is against Tjdwarf. And in this group, we are all dwarfs. All 4 of us are dwarfs. There's 3 other groups. Each group has a different faction assigned to it. So there's one for Greenskins, one for Vampire Counts, and one for the Empire. And then there's the dwarfs, of course. No Chaos or Bretonia in this tournament. And basically, it doesn't matter how many wins or losses you get in this first group. You will always go through to the next round. But in the next round, depending on where you end in the first group, first, second, third, or fourth, you will need to land in a specific place to go through to the actual knockout stages, but I'll get to that when we get to the second group. So I can lose as many as I want, not necessarily, but I can lose or win as many as I can, and I will still go through to the second group stage. Everyone is going to go through to the second group stage, and then I'll explain more of how that works once we get to that point. But for now, that's basically how this first group stage will work. So I'll always be fighting dwarfs in these first 3 battles. It is a well, not a best of 1 because it's not a knockout yet. It's just you have to fight every single person once, and then you end up at a certain specific place in that group. But anyway, let's get on to this first battle. So like I said, I'm playing against Tjdwarf. I will go over the army compositions first. So I am using Ungrim Iron Fist as my legendary lord. Oh, sorry, as my general lord. But yeah, he's my lord. I'm using 1 minor unit. 2 minor units of blasting charges. I have 6 longbeards as my regular infantry, my main line essentially. I have 2 longbeards with great weapons on the outer flanks, and 2 hammers supporting them as well. And then I have 4 thunderers as my my gun infantry essentially, and 2 cannons for my long-range infantry. Sorry, not infantry, my long-range artillery, of course. My opponent, Tjdwarf, has brought a generic lord. 1 miners with blasting charges, 6 units of longbeards with great weapons, and 3 units of hammers, so a lot of great weapon and armor-piercing units right there. 5 units of thunderers as his ranged infantry, and 2 cannons as his long-range artillery. So without any further ado, let's get the show on the road. I'm actually going to be triple speeding the first bit of the fight because nothing happens. Tjdwarf, essentially, his tactic was to sit back, use his artillery to his advantage. We both have 2 pieces, but he's already sort of situated in this corner here. Tried to hide his artillery in the forest, but it doesn't actually work in this game. I think artillery and large creatures and stuff cannot hide. Cavalry can, but anything beyond cavalry in size, don't think it can hide actually. But yeah, so I decided to shuffle over towards the left because I wanted to sort of face him essentially. I was hoping to avoid a long-range battle because I'm not a big fan of the artillery versus artillery battles. I just want to get in there, get my killing done, and be gone, essentially. You can see that Tjdwarf is already sort of using one of his longbeard units. He was trying to keep it hidden. I don't think it actually was. During the battle, I did notice something at some point go this way. It may have been these guys, it may have been that one. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I do know he moved something towards this forest. And you will see that sort of come into play later on. You should, like, according to this, he's out of my line of sight, but he doesn't have the hidden things. But I think I did see something. Well, I definitely did see something at some point. I don't remember exactly what it was. Anyway, so I decided to move up a little bit with my infantry just to sort of sit here and get my cannons over as well. But after a little bit, he actually starts firing at my miners. And because of that, let's just actually triple speed a little longer. Because of that, I decided to move my army back a little bit again, and then eventually I decided to actually go full on the charge. You can see he's still moving, actually he's moving that unit back towards the rest, and I think he's going to meet up and then they're going to go into the forest right there. There you can see the first shots are coming in, and because of that I decided to move back because I wanted to get my cannons into range, because I figured, because his artillery is in the forest there and his infantry is a decent bit in front of it. Actually these guys are as well. I actually do pop shot with some of my cannons on these guys. He tried to hide him behind this rock essentially, so my line of sight wasn't great, but I still, there you go, cannons coming in. Most of the shots missed, but I think 1 or 2 hit. There you go. And because of that, he decided to move his units away from there again, so I got a few more shots up, but didn't do too much there. But because of his units were much more forward, I figured that it would be a good idea to just get a long-range battle for now, because it gives me the option to fire at him while he wouldn't be able to return fire. But because he was moving back as well, and my other cannon unit was still all the way over here, it wasn't really in a particularly amazing position here, it doesn't really have great line of sight, so I figured at some point to just, I would just move my units forward. He's still doing the large flank attack with his, it's 1 unit of hammers, 3 units of longbeards with great weapons. 1 is already in position behind the forest. But yeah, let's triple speed it for a little bit longer. So I think I moved he was returning fire onto my cannons, and I figured I wasn't a big fan of that. You can see damage by artillery. So I decided to actually move them back, and then I was like, well, this is just going to be nothing. So instead of moving back with my cannons and just constantly moving around with the super slow units, I decided I would just start moving up. So I moved my entire army up. You can see me just giving the orders there. Send up the Longbeard's crew, the miners. The miners are essentially used as a shield. I had several setups, army setups for this first group, Dwarfs v Dwarfs. I always wanted to have at least some kind of range, in most of the battles anyway. There's one of them where I don't bring any artillery, but you'll see when we get to that one, I have a good reason for not bringing any. But I wanted to always have, usually have some kind of artillery, just so I'm not completely outmatched essentially, because as the Dwarfs, people will always be bringing artillery, because you're deploying as the Dwarfs. Dwarfs like artillery, it makes sense, they've got efficient artillery. So it made sense to bring those. But I brought my miners as a shield to make sure that my thunders don't get absolutely picked apart. He does actually start firing with his cannons on my my thunders. You can see there already some of them being shot down. Wasn't much I could do about that yet. I actually sort of neglect my cannons throughout this fight. I set them up to fire at some of his units, and then later on I sort of forgot about them and didn't really use them much anymore. But anyway, back to the shield. So yeah, 1 without the blasting charges, 2 of them with blasting charges, mostly because of budget reasons. I ended up on exactly 0. The funds are 15,000, but like I said, you should just watch that explanation video, the intro video that Lord Rexasaur has made. So in this fight, what I usually do, this is something you'll see recurring throughout this tournament as well, or at least this first group. I haven't actually fought any of the second group battles yet. But for this first group, I decide to always use my thunders against the enemy's thunderers and try and win the ranged battle. Because once you win the ranged battle, you have a massive range superiority. And then you can start flanking around your gun units, etc., and you should be able to win the battle a little more easily from there. One of my miners of blasting charge I actually throw at this unit. Wasn't really what I meant to do, but I'd sort of already targeted them. This one was a lot better. I threw at this thunder. I do believe I switched targets with him. There you go. And I actually go for his thunders, which I thought was a better idea, because I had the miners going into melee anyway, and he didn't have anything around here to stop me from doing that. You can see his flanking force still coming around. At this one, I'd sort of forgotten about it, but I do notice it in time to counter it in a moment. I decided to sort of match him here and even send in a few extra units. I get somewhat lucky because of, I think it's because of my wide formation here. I actually win this battle against his hammers quite easily. You'll see that in a bit. I basically were fighting my longbeards with great weapons versus his longbeards with great weapons, my hammers versus his hammers. Over here I have 3 units of regular longbeards against his 2 longbeards with great weapons. But I also send his miner unit, now that it's run out of ammo, I send it around to help in the back there as well, and that should make it a lot easier. Our miner unit's still in combat with his thunders over here, this one is still in combat with his cannons. And on this side I've engaged most of his units as well. He does have a hammer unit facing against my longbeards, so obviously it's a very good fight for him. I send in my hammers and my longbeards with great weapons in the back there. Not particularly amazing, but I had to keep in mind that these 3 units were still going this way. One of them was actually going for my cannons. He later said that he wasn't too happy with that decision. He feels like he should have done something else. But you can see here I noticed the charge coming from the back, so I send one of my units back to countercharge it, and my hammers I send them around over here, you'll see momentarily, so I can sort of send them around, because it looks like he's just sending all 3 of them in the same area. He's not trying to do any flanking, so I figured if I pull my unit out and send him in the side of there. Actually, this one looks like it's going for my thunderers, so I forgot about that. My cravens have fled. I also send in Ungrim against his lord, which should be a fairly easy fight for Ungrim. In every single fight in this tournament so far, I've brought Ungrim because I feel like he's just the best choice for 1v1 fighting with enemy generals. And my opponents seem to like just bringing the generic Lord, which always loses. So you can see here, I actually won that fight with the hammer. There's not too many men left, but it's still, I won it, which is, like, it's the same exact unit, so shouldn't have necessarily won it. Longbeards against Great Weapons, same thing as well. This one a lot more favorable towards me. I have over half of my men remaining when this unit's almost dead. Probably again because of the wide formation though, which means that my guys sort of flank around a little bit by themselves, so it's one unit flanking essentially. You can see here I actually got occupied with this hammer unit. I was planning on flanking it around, but I actually got occupied by this hammer unit. But me, my own unit plus my Longbeards are making quick work of it. I've got my units firing at the Longbeards unit. Wasn't much I could do anymore. Like, he was going to get there regardless. You can see my cannons over here have run, and he decided to not actually chase after the second cannon unit and just go after my infantry instead. But at this point, he was already starting to look somewhat in my favor. You can see I took care of his cannons pretty early on. And we are about to win this battle over here. We've now taken care of both the units on the left flank. There's only 2 remaining against my 6, essentially, if you count this unit as well. Some of them are somewhat depleted, but his units are going to die pretty quickly here. On the other side, it wasn't going as well, but you can see that I was still firing mostly with my Thunders against his, which means that his were starting to lose some HP. This one's almost gone. That one over there is gone because my miners were in melee with it. This one over there isn't too healthy anymore. Mine were engaged in melee with his Longbeards with great weapons, but overall it's going well. And in the meantime, Ungrim had constantly been fighting that general. You can see Ungrim still got half his HP left, and the enemy lord is already dead. That cost some units over here to rout as well, which means that I had this complete flank free up to go to the east now, essentially. Well, actually, it is the west, technically, according to the map. But anyway, to the other side of the battlefield. I didn't actually notice this unit was coming back from killing my cannon, so my Thunderers unit got full-on charged in the back, which is unfortunate, but it didn't really matter too much anymore. I was rearranging my Thunderers to try and fire in the back of this Longbeard unit as well. This engagement is still going on, actually going in his favor slightly. But I was winning this Longbeard versus Miner unit, and hopefully the guys would rout so I could actually pull this unit in the side there as well. And generally, we were just winning the fights overall. He had this big unit left, he had a small unit over there still, and then these units over here. But we had this massive flank going off. I sent most of the units towards that main engagement, while sending 2 of the smaller groups to go chase off that Thunder unit, so he couldn't continuously fire in the side of my men, making sure to keep my Longbeards, the better units, on the side as well, so he could only fire at the miners and the weaker regular Longbeard units. So you can see he's got another charge off of that Longbeard unit, the one we were firing at, but it doesn't really matter anymore. That unit's pretty low now. You can see these units are starting to rout. My Cravens have fled as well, one of the units that was chasing after the Thunderers. I finally targeted my cannon on something useful for once, because I hadn't retargeted them at all during the entire fight, but you can see I decided to fire at the Longbeards with great weapons, which are going after my Thunderers. This unit is still really low. I mean, the Thunder is actually not terrible in melee anyway, but you can see only a few seconds remaining, and there you go, mass routing happening across the field. And that was my first victory. A Pyrrhic victory, but a victory nonetheless. This was the last battle that I fought in the group. I didn't have to do them in order, I just have to use the right map. There's 3 maps assigned to us as well. 1 for each battle, essentially. Let's end the replay so we can have a look at the numbers. So one of my MVPs was surprisingly my miner unit. This was the one that was killing off his crew, his artillery crew, and after that some of the Thunderers as well. So that's why they did particularly well. We actually didn't lose that much less than Tjdwarf did, but because we had 220 men, sorry, deployed more than he did, we had just that much more to play around with. He went for more elite troops with the Longbeards with great weapons and the hammers, 3 of them instead of my 2. I went for the Longbeards, which technically isn't the best choice. I feel like the hammers the Longbeards with great weapons are actually a solid choice against Dwarfs, because the Dwarfs obviously have a lot of armor. Even their weakest units, the miners, have 80 armor. So Longbeards with great weapons are a solid choice, but they also cost, I think it's 100 more than the regular Longbeards, and I feel like I use the Longbeards just to keep, to hold the line, and then my own units can do the flanking, and they will do more damage in the back as well. The hammer is getting 114 kills each, which is interesting. You can see cannon-wise, I actually thought it was quite funny. I got 1 more kill total on the cannons. You can see I got 2 more of this one than his one over here. He got 1 more of his cannon over this one, so I got 1 more kill in total from the cannons. And And yeah, the miners doing particularly well. Miners are blasting charges. One of them doing fairly well, one of them not doing specifically well. But they did their job by disrupting the Thunderers and just doing a whole bunch of damage to his. We can see his kills weren't particularly well. My 4 units, I think... I can't be bothered to do the math right now, but I think they might be getting more kills than his 5 units combined. So you can see that they were higher value, essentially, because I targeted his Thunderers, essentially. Longbows are great weapons, doing generally okay. And then, of course, Ungrim standing after his general. That's why he only has 10 kills, whereas his general has 20, but Ungrim getting the most important kill by killing the enemy lord. Anyway, so that was the first battle in the Heroes of the Old World tournament, like I said, hosted by Lord Rexasaur. Next up, I am fighting Haxo, I believe, Haxo the Hunter. So thank you very much for watching. Watch out for that. We'll come soon. Until then, have a good day and goodbye.